Hello.
Hello?
Hello and welcome to a brand new edition of Down the Line with me, Gary Bellamy, live on Radio 4. 0800 068 7060, or you can email me at downtheline@bbc.co.uk. OK, I'd just like to start by playing you a message from our answer phone this week. Just have a listen to this.
All right, Gary, it's Denny. Come on, Gary, we're all down at all bar one.
No, not that one, Matt. The other one.
Down the Line is an absolute disgrace.
Yeah, that's the one.
Listen to it, you would think that the British people were, to a man, ignorant, bigoted, narrow-minded twits. There are so many clever, talented, interesting people in this country. Why, oh, why, oh, why, oh, why can't you have some of them on? I'm sorry, my wife wrote this down for me. Why, oh, why can't you have some of them on? Instead of the parade of little English bigots and crackpots you parade every week, also, I seriously think we should bring back hanging.
Right, now that really got me thinking. Maybe we should have some more clever guests on the show. We tried to get Stephen Hawkins, but he was unavailable, and Richard Dawkins and Jermaine Greer. Then we asked the Archbishop of Canterbury and Lynn Truss, that woman who wrote the book on punctuation, and Stephen Fry, and we also asked Mark Commode, who's yet to get back to us. But instead, we've got a man who's written a clever book. My guest today is Professor Andrew Vester, who has written a book called The String Conspiracy. Hello, Andrew.
Hello there, hi.
Now, it sounds very exciting, doesn't it, The String Conspiracy? Like the Da Vinci Code, but it's not exactly an exciting book, is it?
Well,
when I say not exciting, I mean it's like a factual book rather than...
I see what you mean. No, it's not fiction. It is a factual book. It's a science book. It's about...
Right, and it's not about string.
No, it's not about actual string. No, it's about the string theory.
Now, that is quite a complicated subject. Is there anything... Can you explain to people at home exactly what string theory is?
Well, of course, the thing about it is there is no string theory. There is just a theory that there might be a theory. Nevertheless, it has become the dominant theory in physics. If you don't adhere to it, you won't get funding, you won't get promotion, you won't win science prizes, you won't get a job. That's what my book is about, how the string theory has stifled all other research and become like a form of medieval religious orthodoxy.
Well, like the Da Vinci Code?
In a way, yes. I mean, one set of beliefs has suffocated all others, yes.
Right. So just for our listeners, if you could explain, just for those who don't understand it, what exactly is string theory again? I mean, what is it really about?
Well, I mean, the holy grail of physics has always been...
The Holy Grail is a bit like the Da Vinci Code. Because in the Da Vinci Code, the Grail is Jesus' daughter or something, isn't it? Do you think your book will be as good as sell as much as the Da Vinci Code?
Well, I would hope so, but, I doubt that it will.
No. Well, what exactly is, to reiterate, what is string theory?
The Holy Grail of physics has always been to find the unifying theory of everything.
Like E equals MC squared.
Exactly. And of course, at the time, it was felt that Einstein's theory suddenly explained everything. But, that was a long, long time ago.
About 1950-something?
1905.
1905?
E equals MC squared is very simple, and we all understand that one.
Well, yeah, why don't you explain to people at home exactly what it is?
Right, well, you know what E is? E stands for?
Yes, of course.
It is...
E equals MC squared.
Yeah, no, well, what is E?
E, it's entropy or something
Energy.
like that? Energy.
Right, and M is...
Movement.
Mass.
Mass.
And C, of course, is... Everyone knows that one.
Yeah. So E equals MC squared.
Speed of light squared. Basically, it's saying that energy and mass are equivalent. Einstein's theories talk about large objects. Quantum mechanics talk about very small objects. And it was discovered that very small objects don't behave in the same way as large objects. I mean, what's the smallest thing you can think of?
Mouse.
Smaller than that.
A bit of dust?
Smaller than... No, we're talking about atoms, molecules. You're going right down to the very smallest things that we thought that existed in the universe at the time, which is particles.
Particles?
Which are zero-dimensional points.
Right. Right, well, let's go to the phones now. My first call is Ron Hartley. Hello, Ron.
Ron Hartley.
Hello.
Hello. Do you two have any idea of the nonsense that is coming out of my radio into my ear hole? If you're trying to physically make people go and turn their radios off, you're doing a very good job, my friends. Cutting up frogs, explosions in test tubes. That is where most people's knowledge of science ends. Now, you're coming on here, right, and I'll tell you what, the young fella, he don't know what you're talking about. And
Hang on.
You're doing a good job of trying to go along with him, but you're like a bloke being dragged along by a kite. What are you talking about?
We're talking about how the universe works, how it was created, how we all got here. Now that is...
A scalpel in the back of a frog, right?
Yeah, hang on.
A bit of sodium and magnesium, a bit of something else, wallop.
How do you
I've
think...
gone across the room. That's the last time I ever did any science.
Ron.
Yeah.
How do you think we got here?
I'm torn between the alien spacecraft coming down and putting a couple of people here, and people coming out of the ocean, frog,
Yeah, but
bird,
what
man,
we're talking about is
gorilla.
what happens before
then.
all that.
Yeah, and the thing is, you're a scientist, right, mate? And all the science kids at school, I mean, I don't know whether it's a calling or whether you just done it because no one else wanted to speak to you, but it's the spotty kids, the losers, the weirdos, the kids with odd socks. And you lot, while we're out there, we've got conker's birds, pubics are coming on, but you're plotting and you're planning. And you're the fellas that are coming and going, right, the computer fella, what's his name? David Guest.
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates, yeah, him. You come back and it's like that film, Revenge of the Nerds, am I right?
Well,
Did you do organised sport?
I didn't do any sport at school. I had bad asthma.
Oh, there's a shock.
But listen, organised sport isn't going to save this planet, is it?
Of course it is. What do you think the World Cup is?
Yeah, but
More people watch that and listen to this.
Tell me this.
Yeah.
Ron. Tell me this, Ron. There was a lot of dispute in the World Cup over goals. Did it go over the line? Didn't it go over the line? We're relying there on the referee's judgment. What was everyone saying? We need science. We need scientists to come in and take over football and put in some scientific equipment. We could say...
You can't have people in white coats walking up and down the pitch with tongs and all that, and stethoscopes and test tubes.
They wouldn't be doing that, would they?
We could put a satellite in space with cameras on it so powerful that from thousands of miles up in space, they could tell better than the referee on the pitch whether it was a goal.
Our next call, we got Paphos calling. Hello, Paphos.
Hello, Gary. Hello, Gary and Professor.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
What is time?
Well, that's
What
very
is the time?
Well, that's very interesting. We're going right back to Einstein here, because up to that point,
No, because
we'd thought that...
what is stop? What is time? Very important appointment.
Well,
I have to make a very important appointment.
Well, actually, my watch is it was at least running slow, and possibly stopped.
You two use no help. Okay, thank you very much, though.
If we can have some serious questions for the Professor. Hi, hello, you're through to Down the Line, you're live on Radio 4. Hello?
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 Gary?
Yes?
Is that Gary?
Hello, yes, hello, Gary, yeah.
I think I can hear someone shuffling about in the attic.
Right. Well, we're not actually talking about that today.
I live alone.
We're not talking about ghosts and things like that today and strange phenomena.
I think it might be a burglar.
Yes, but we're not talking about crime. We're talking about string theory. So if you want to talk about string theory, give us a call on 0800 068 7060. So can you just explain, for the listeners at home, obviously, what is it?
Well, let me make it simple for you, because it is a fascinating area.
Yeah.
String theory was originally invented to explain some peculiarities of the behaviour of hadrons.
Hadrons. And what are hadrons? Just for the people who don't understand.
For the listeners at home.
Yeah.
They're subatomic particles, such as the proton and the neutron, of course.
I'm sorry, but hadrons does sound like something off Lord of the Rings or something. Have you made that up? Did you invent this conspiracy of string?
No. It was invented by a number of different scientists. In particular, Yoichiro Nambu realised that the dual resonance model of strong interactions could be explained by a quantum mechanical model of strings.
Right. So...
Right, all right, look.
Can you just explain... I mean, there are people... I understand what you're talking about. You know,
well, the basic premise
but there's people at home who don't.
is that the smallest parts of the world are not particles, but tiny strands of one-dimensional energy called strings.
Yeah.
And they're extremely small, I mean, possibly Planck length.
Planck length, that's not very small.
No, Max Planck, it's about 10 to the power of minus 35 metres. Absolutely, I mean, inconceivably small.
Max Planck.
And these strings, by vibrating in different ways, like the strings of a violin, they create all the building blocks of the universe, particles, photons, etc.
So they're made by sort of like music, then? Vibrations?
It is. And the different vibrations of these strings vibrating create matter.
Can we ever travel through time?
The thing about string theory is that a lot of these ideas that we're familiar with from science fiction are turning up in string theory as a way of possibly explaining things. For string theory to work mathematically, I won't bore you with the sums,
please.
was worked out that the universe had to have more than the standard 4 dimensions.
See, right, so now the fourth dimension is time travel, isn't it?
time, not time travel.
The fifth dimension, is there a fifth dimension?
Well, according to string theory, we can have up to 26 dimensions.
Right, so why can't we see them?
Because of compactification.
Right, yeah.
The six-dimensional model's resolution is achieved with Caliber-Yau spaces.
Right.
In 7 dimensions, as you know, they're termed G2 manifolds.
Of course, yeah.
And another possibility is that we're stuck in our 3+1 dimensional space. And that's a subspace of the full universe.
Yeah.
So you see, that's how they're making it all make sense, that we've got these different dimensions folded in upon each other.
Like parallel universes.
Exactly, like parallel universes.
So basically, there's my light world here, and then there could be a parallel universe with me, but I might be something else on this parallel universe. For example, there could be a Harry Gellamy, who might be not a radio DJ, but maybe he's a hospital DJ in a hospital on a parallel universe, which doesn't cure sick people, but maybe makes them ill, because it's a parallel universe, a hospital that works in a different way.
It's possible, but unlikely. I mean, really what we're more likely to be seeing in these other parallel universes is a howling void, or...
Yeah, howling void, that sounds like a kind of a blues artist, or maybe some kind of progressive rock band. Howling void. Yeah. Well, recently in an episode of Doctor Who, right, there were 2 parallel universes, right? And you saw Rose, her dad, was dead in this world, in our world, but in the other world he was alive. And by travelling from one void to another, the energy actually created the end of the world in another planet. So they couldn't keep crossing through the parallel universes because the energy discharged would kill the other parallel universe.
I didn't see that one.
Right, I've got another caller for you, Andrew. I've got Katrina. Hello, Katrina.
Hello, Gary. I'm a Christian, and for me, string theory is so important because it explains God's miracles. You see, if you think about our world, the brain world, as a television inside a house, and that is the bulk world, and we've only got our 3 dimensions where we are in the television, and in the bulk world there's the other 9, perhaps even 10 out there, and that's where God is. That's why we can't see him.
Well, this is the whole thing, exactly the point I've been making about string theory.
Is it?
It's based on belief. There's no actual proof that any of the string theory stuff actually exists. And it's exactly the same with religious belief. There's no definite proof that God exists.
No, but
therefore, the belief in string theory is extremely close to the belief in God.
And
yes, they're both dealing with things we can't see, things that are hidden.
I think we're extremely close to seeing God.
Right.
I think we're probably as close to seeing God as we are to seeing the Hubble boson space.
Now, I'd like to ask a question with a Christian on the phone and a man of science, and the two don't always go hand in hand. In fact, there are a lot of arguments,
Yeah, but, let's face it, Christians talk a lot of old nonsense.
I don't think there's any need for that.
I'm not singling out Christians, all religions, across the board, Hindus, Buddhists, Judaism, Muslims,
whatever. We might as well list them all just in case you might...
So we're not going to offend anyone by leaving them out.
Exactly. But as the lady here, Katrina, is talking about God. Now, Jesus was God's son, right?
Yes.
Now, we kind of know he exists, so how do you answer that?
He exists as a person, yes.
Right, but he was the son of God.
There's no proof that he was the son of God. I could say, I'm the son of God. The two, that's...
Are you claiming to be the son of God? I mean, you have got a beard, which is one thing,
Yes,
but you are...
He's got a closed mind.
Who has?
The professor.
Right.
I would say exactly the same of you, love. You've got a closed mind.
Well, I think you will look pretty silly in a couple of years' time when they get a good, clear look at God.
Well, how are they going to do that with the Hubble telescope?
Look. If God makes himself manifest and appears in front of me, I'll believe in him.
I think you have to do some pretty quick catching up when they see God.
I'd like to know what you meant about the television in the corner of the room.
Well,
But not now. Thanks very much for your call. Okay, another question for Andrew here. We've got Stuart on the line. Hello, Stuart.
Call me Stewie, Gary.
Stewie, okay, Stewie,
Yeah.
how are you?
I'm all right, mate. I was listening to what you were discussing with the professor there.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's a long time ago, right? And in between, we've had the debacle of McLaren, his umbrella, Carson and Croatia in the Euro qualifiers. But one thing that still really bothers me, Gal, and keeps me awake at night as it goes, is why Sven took Walcott to the World Cup.
What is your point?
Not that he took him, because look, the boy is a blinding talent. He's got a lot of potential, and his pace is unbelievable. But having taken him, he took him and he never played him. Now, you tell me, what is going on there? It's Lampard. He couldn't have barn door with a cow, could he? Do you know what I'm saying? Well, there's Walcott. He's took him over there and he's not played him.
Do you know about who these people are?
Don't get the idea that us scientists are, living in our ivory towers. I watch football as much as the next man. I loved the World Cup.
Yeah,
and
well,
you know, you see the way you see Beckham taking a free kick. That's physics in action.
Yeah.
That's gravity.
Yeah, but it
that's
goes
all
way
these
back,
different
then.
forces.
We've been crap for years. They say we've got the English fighting spirit. When's that won us anything? 1966.
Can you apply...
What a joke. Why didn't they give Cloughie a go? Because he was too dangerous.
Stewie.
That's why they got rid of Venables. And that's why we got bloody McLaren and not O'Neill. Because yes men, isn't it? Mediocrity. We're no good technically. We're no good.
Stewie.
Let's blame foreigners. Stewie. You know, let's blame the wags. Let's blame the girlfriend.
Stewie. What is your point?
Oh, no, I'm getting a parking ticket. I'm going to have to go.
Okay, I've got Andrew Vesta here, who's taking your calls on science. And my next caller is Cherry Ruggerton. Is that right? Sherry, hello, nice to meet you, talk to you. What's your question for Andrew?
Well, I was just ringing up really because of Doctor Who. Absolutely love it. And my favourite one is a 1981 story by Christopher H. Bidmead. Set in East-Space. It's Tom Baker's final episode. It's a 4-parter, broadcast March 1981.
Logopolis?
That's it, Logopolis, yeah, at 5 to... It's, I don't expect you to remember, but the TARDIS accidentally passes through a charged vacuum emboyment from their own universe.
The CVE?
That's it, the CVE, yeah.
Do you really like Doctor Who that much?
I love it so much.
Well, Logopolis is the last ever Tom Baker story, and at that point, you know, it was dealing with...
Block transfer computation. They master the theory, don't they, the Logopolitans?
Yeah, Logopolitans. Well, they're not real people, but they...
No, but they make things, don't they, objects purely from maths.
How did you... I can't believe this.
Yeah. I love it.
See, my girlfriend, Michaela, she doesn't even like it. She thinks I'm a bit of an idiot watching it.
Ah, well, she's wrong.
Andrew, what do you think?
Growing up, I loved Doctor Who. I watched it all. One of the things that made me want to become a scientist was understanding all this stuff, thinking, could a TARDIS really exist? Could we travel through space and time? The more recent series, I found it concentrated more on relationships and stuff like that. Not so much hard.
It's gay, isn't it?
Well, I wouldn't use that word, but there's not so much hard science in it.
Cherry, isn't it?
Cherry, yeah.
Cherry. Listen, Sherry, you've ever been to a convention before?
Oh, yeah, every single one, yeah.
You should stay on the line at the end of this call and give Matt your details, right? Because we could definitely go to one of these conventions together.
That'd be great, yeah.
Don't tell Michaela, though. I hope she's not listening.
I haven't got a boyfriend, so yeah.
She won't be listening. It's about science. So many women turn off when they hear about science. Not interested.
Is that true?
No, it's not true.
Actually, we've got another caller now who is a female scientist. Maybe you two should get together. Who's there?
It's Victoria Stair.
Hello, you're a scientist.
Yes, and
A female scientist. You're a female scientist.
That's right. It does irritate me. Why does everyone perceive scientists to be male with beards? You know, this image of men who eat boiled eggs from Tupperware boxes, or they look like the man from the royal family, or Stephen Hawking.
Well, believe you me, I've met a lot of scientists. A lot of them are like that, but it doesn't make them any less exciting and interesting as people.
No, but this is not a good image to propagate, and it's not true. You know, the only scientist I know who looks like Stephen Hawking is Stephen Hawking.
You know him?
Sorry to interrupt you, Gary. Can I just ask what Andrew looks like?
Well, I look quite normal, I suppose. I'm average height. I've got
average.
A little bit short. I've got thinning hair.
You haven't got any hair.
I'm bald. I wear glasses.
Very thick glasses.
And I've got
your eyes are quite big under them.
And I've got I must confess, I've got a small beard.
What's a small beard? A moustache?
I'd say kind of Jeff Capes.
Right.
Okay, my next caller to speak to Andrew is Ryan Godby. Hello, Ryan. Hello.
Yeah, I'm calling in about Doctor Who. It's become way too gay.
Right.
It used to be an informative science programme which also frightened you. It was a thriller. It was everything in one. Now it is a simple excuse for the homosexuals of the BBC to put their views across. We've got flying Daleks.
But why does that make them gay?
Oh, look at me! I'm a fairy. I can fly. You know. They can't fly. They go
I don't think it's fair to say that
Doctor
Who is a gay programme.
I've nothing against gays, but they are taking over everything. They're taking over politics, they're taking over television, they're taking over banking industry. All the people in Lord of the Rings, they're all gay.
Only Frodo.
Coronation Street, there's gays in that. Emmerdale Farm.
Thank you. Thanks for your call. I think we know where that's going. I don't think we need to hear your prejudiced views on homosexuality. So, Andrew, we're talking about string theory. Do you think it's a problem, the increasing gayness of Doctor Who?
Well, is it gay?
He's not necessarily gay. In fact, in that last series, the Doctor did say he did kiss Captain Jack, and they danced together. But that's a good thing, don't you think, to see two men dancing on...
Well, you know, speaking as a scientist, where we look at... Everything has to be proved, we look at the facts, is there any evidence? I suppose you could say him kissing another man is evidence of a certain degree of gayness.
But do you think it's bad that gay overtones have come into Doctor Who? Do you know many...
I've got absolutely no problem with the gay sensibility behind the show, no. But I was here mainly to talk about string theory.
Yes, but no one really understands what that is, but we all can talk about whether Doctor Who's gone gay or not. Well,
yeah.
OK, I've got Hilary on the line. You got a question for Andrew. Hello, Hilary.
Hello. Yes, I've been listening. I've been enthralled, really, I suppose, is the way to describe it, by the professor. I frequently read the New Scientist, and so I know a little bit about this area,
Good.
As we know, the fundamental component of matter has often been propounded in one form, but now the string theory is suggesting that matter is not a mathematical pint, but it is one-dimensional thing called a string, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks, thank you. Sorry about that. I was hoping that would be another call about Doctor Who, but it wasn't. So, if we can have some serious questions for the Professor...
Right, I've got a couple of questions for your Professor.
Fire away.
OK, why does a watch pot never boil?
Well, that goes back to the idea of relativity.
Why does smoke always go into people's eyes? Where do socks go in the wash?
Again...
How does the telephone work?
Well, that's electromagnetic
forces. Why does toast fall upside down?
Well, it doesn't
How does a TV remote control work? And what did people do before they were invented?
Well, they used to get up
the last question, what's a 7/8?
Were you...
56.
54. No, 56.
Thanks very much for your call. OK, I've got Lorraine Jallis here to talk to you, Andrew. Hello, Lorraine.
Hello, Gary. Hello, Andrew.
Hello.
What kind of string is it, then? This string, is it...
It's a string... It's a string of energy that creates matter. It's not matter in itself.
Not matter.
Do you think Doctor Who's gone gay, Lorraine?
Too gay. I just wanted to say, I was watching Weird Science the other day. I just wondered that in that film they create a woman of their dreams. Now, Andrew, could you do that if you couldn't get a girlfriend? Would you ever consider doing that?
I don't know. It always comes up. The question of sex. Could you create this beautiful sex object?
You've tried. Have you ever tried?
All physicists at one time in their lives have carried out experiments in an attempt to create a woman who will...
fulfil their every need.
Do exactly what they say, yes.
So how far did you get? Just a hand, or was it a boob or a body, or what did you do?
It was just a vague, shimmering shape.
Right.
It didn't coalesce into matter. It didn't really get beyond energy. But, we had fun. We found it quite exciting
at the time.
Did you tell your wife?
Did you tell your wife?
Oh, this was long before.
Hang on, when you say we, do you mean you and the shape or you and your friends?
At
So a group of you made a woman?
No, we didn't actually manage to make a woman. We carried out some experiments to see if it was hypothetically possible to make a woman.
And how far did you get?
Well, we created this vague shimmering energy which had some female qualities about it.
And you all had a go, did you?
Who got to go on her first?
Well, there was nothing to go on. It was just this energy. But if you stepped into it, it gave you a sort of slight tingling sensation.
Well, how many of you stepped into it?
It was a virtual roasting in a way, wasn't it?
Well, if you like. But actually, one time we did turn it up too high, and someone stepped into it, and they did get roasted. It became like a sort of giant microwave, and singed his eyebrows right off. It was very funny at the time.
Thanks very much for your call, Lorraine.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye. OK, Andrew, we've got some more phone calls for you now. We've got Dave from Crawley. Hello, Dave.
Yes, I just wanted to make a comment about string theory. I believe in string theory, it strongly implies the existence of 10 or even 11 space-time dimensions.
Depending on which string theory you go with, yeah. I mean, anything up to 26.
Yeah, well, I have to say, I can barely get my head around the existing 3 or 4, if you count time as well. And why do they have to keep mucking about with these dimensions? I mean, there's nothing wrong with the ones we've got already.
Well, I couldn't argue with that, really.
Why can't they just leave things as they are? What is the point of all this change for change's sake?
Well, it's...
Why are they mucking about with it?
I'd have to agree with you on that one. I mean, the theory doesn't make sense.
Hang on. Thanks very much for your call, Dave.
You're welcome.
Thank you. You just admitted that everything you're saying doesn't make sense.
Well, if you were listening, that's the whole thrust of my book.
Well, I wasn't listening.
Questioning the idea of string
You're just saying that everything you've written in your book doesn't make any sense.
That's my book. It's called The String Theory Conspiracy.
But it doesn't make any sense.
It's about how all the scientists are telling us we've got to go along with this theory, but they haven't proved the theory.
Because it doesn't make any sense.
I don't believe in string theory, no.
Well, you've just written a book about it. How can you write
a book about how I don't believe in it?
What? I mean, I'm completely baffled now. Let's go to the phones. Hello.
Gary, can we talk about ladies' bosoms?
Pardon?
Can we talk about ladies' bosoms?
In what context?
Oh, any context.
Not really the sort of thing we should discuss on...
Well, we could if it was something wrong with them, couldn't we? If it was breast cancer or...
Well...
Let's just celebrate them, Gary.
I don't think it's the sort of thing we should discuss now.
Oh, why not?
Because we're talking about string theory, although they are quite nice.
They're always topical. I saw one earlier on its own, and then the other one came flopping into view.
Yeah.
I love the bosom.
OK, let's take another call. Hello, who's there?
Hello, I'm just ringing in about the Daleks, or the Garlics, as my 5-year-old calls them.
Why is that?
He got the name wrong. What I was talking about are the Daleks of the gay persuasion.
Right.
I don't think that's a new thing at all. I think that the Daleks have always been of the gay persuasion. If you think about it, has there ever been a female Dalek?
No.
No, they're all blokes, aren't they, who like to hang out with each other.
No, but they were created, weren't they? They were created in a laboratory on Skaro, where the planet of the Daleks...
that's an entirely gay setup, isn't it? Because if you look at it, the whole thing about gays is, we've got to get rid of the gays, whatever, because the human race will die out.
Hang on.
They've worked it out, how to be a race of gay persuasions, haven't they?
Yeah, hang on.
And they do behave in a slightly hysterical manner sometimes, don't they?
When?
Well, like a bunch of...
Don't say it.
Like a bunch of gay persuasions in a nightclub. All that zooming around, all that exterminate business. Exterminate, it's a little bit hysterical, isn't it?
Thanks for your call. We've got Graham Downs on the phone to speak to you, Andrew. Hello, Graham, how are you?
I'm all right, Gary, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Having a little chat about science.
That's nice, I know. I've been listening, obviously. And I'm bringing in, I'd just like to extend a hand of down-the-line friendship to you, Professor.
Oh, thank you very much.
I'm a regular caller, you see, Professor.
Great.
I'm a very regular caller.
Yeah.
I call Gary out all the time.
That's right.
I call him about many variety of subjects.
Yeah.
But
what's your question?
I'm very well read.
Graham, why don't you ask Andrew your question?
Okay, well, the question, first of all, with the science, I like science, but I was a little bit clumsy at school. I was maybe breaking beakers and knocking over Bunsen burners.
Why was that
my
then?
spatial awareness was never very good, even when I was young.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, I was saying it. I've got a dog. That brings me a lot of joy. So it's all my DVD collections. But I wish I had persevered with the science, Gary, because I do like the sound of that virtual woman.
Well, it was only ever an experiment.
Yeah, but, all from small acorns, big trees grow. That for me, that would be perfect. Cause I don't know if you know, but I'm actually quite big. I don't know. I'll be a bit naughty now, but if I was maybe sexually, I wouldn't squash her then, because she'd be made of energy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Graham. We've got time to squeeze in just one last call, but I'd just like to thank our guest today, Dr. Andrew Vester,
thank you,
who hasn't quite managed to explain string theory.
Well,
so let's have our last caller. Hello, who's there?
I'm not gay. I'm not gay.